But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Rama to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thanks, Alicia, and thank you, participants. There were just so many things being shared, and it sort of touched my heart just to hear all the personal experiences. It's not easy, I know. And now I'm so happy to have Leena Khanzode, Dr. Leena Khanzode, join us as our keynote speaker. She couldn't join us at the beginning of the conversation, but we're really looking forward to have her share all her experiences with us. She's a child and adolescent psychiatrist practicing in Los Altos, California. She did her medical school training and residency in general psychiatry from Mumbai, India, before immigrating to the US in 2001. She completed her adult psychiatry residency and child and adolescent psychiatry fellowship from Stanford University, graduating in 2009. And she's an adjunct clinical faculty in the child psychiatry department at Stanford. In addition, Dr. Khanzode is also the president of a nonprofit organization called Tarika Foundation, whose mission is to create awareness of mental health in children and teens by conducting educational workshops and seminars for parents and teachers and youth mental health awareness events. And they also teach stress management strategies like mindfulness to children and teens. And Tarika Foundation recently started a podcast series for parent and youth called Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving that is available both on Apple and Google podcast apps, and a YouTube channel called Supporting the Whole Child. Again, we are privileged to have her join us today and share some of her thoughts and experiences and working with mental health issues and its impact on the youth community. Thank you, Dr. Khanzode. The stage is all yours.
Thank you for having me, Rama, and thank you, Maitri and the Agents of Change for organizing this wonderful event. I am certainly delighted to be here to share some of my thoughts and experience. So, I'm sorry I was busy with our nonprofit event earlier this afternoon. So I just rushed through and came and joined to this session. Is my lighting not too good, do you guys think, or is it okay?
We can see you well.
You can see me well? Okay, perfect. So, I was definitely very, I guess, excited to see that a lot of the youth that you had earlier today, the forum, mustered up the courage to talk about some very important topics that the youth is facing today. Tackling mental health stigma that's culturally even more prevalent in our South Asian culture, to even the peer pressure, which tends to be a big one for this age group, to body image concerns. Again, this is the time of their life where this starts to be one of the components of fitting in. So that tends to be an important topic, and it's a bit unfortunate to see that it's become more and more important lately than it used to be when I was growing up. And then, of course, the masculinity, a topic that I got to hear a little bit about. So I want to applaud all those youth for coming out and sharing their thoughts and experiences. Even though I wasn't able to attend the first 3 speakers, I did have luckily a draft of your speech emailed to me, so I have a little bit of a context of what you shared, and it seems like you put really good thought about how you wanted to present this topic. So kudos to all of you. As you know, I'm a mental health provider, and I really am so delighted to see your generation starting to take interest in organizing events and coming out and talking about mental health in youth. So I would like to talk a little bit about those 4 topics that you guys chose, and just sharing my experience as to what I see in my work, in day-to-day work I do. So, I have to say that the stigma unfortunately still exists. And, when I first immigrated to this country almost 20 plus years ago, I thought that it was very much of an Eastern world problem, that the mental health stigma, is more culturally, in the Southeast Asian and South Asian culture. But I was kind of, in some ways, humbled to see, or like it's maybe a little surprised to see, I should say, to see that it exists across the board in different cultures, including different ethnic cultures that our unique Bay Area is full of. So at the same time, I have to say that I have seen definitely an improvement in the awareness and the stigma reducing over the years, and it is really good to see that the current youth generation is talking about it openly and normalizing it, and which is what we need to do. So in my work that I do, a lot of the times that's what my energy goes in some ways, in the first couple sessions, to really educate and help people understand that mental health problem is no different than any other medical condition. In fact, anxiety disorder, clinical depression, ADHD, to name a few, all these conditions, eating disorders, whatnot, they are a form of medical condition. And just like we take any other medical condition seriously, these need to be taken equally, if not more seriously, because, as we all know, our mind is our hard drive for our computer, our body, and if we don't take care of that, we are not going to go anywhere far. So I commonly give the example of diabetes versus, let's say, depression or anxiety, and I help people understand that brain is one organ, so is pancreas, and when there is insulin deficiency or some kind of problem with your insulin metabolism, people develop diabetes. And in the type 1 diabetes, which is primarily where there is deficiency of insulin, that's treated with supplementing insulin from outside. And so, I ask parents, God forbid, if your child had diabetes type 1, would you hesitate to, give them this treatment of insulin? And even if they had to be taking it for a larger period of their lives or majority of their lifetime, there is very little hesitation we have, because we think, oh, it runs in our family and it is just one other thing that, we have to tackle. And thank God there is a treatment and there is a medicine that helps. And so there is very little reluctance in accepting that and moving past that. And of course, it's a challenge, and not to undermine that it is a difficulty that both parents and child go through. But when it comes to an anxiety disorder or depression or ADHD or an eating disorder or, gender dysphoria, name it. I mean, there's so many different mental health issues that can come up. There is a lot of reluctance to accept that as a medical problem, as a physical condition rather. I mean, just because it's related to a different system of our body, or related to our mind and thinking. And there is this myth of we are supposed to control our mind, we are supposed to act right, and we are supposed to control our thoughts. Those myths, I think, come as a way of hindrance to accept that this is another medical condition. There are neurotransmitters and neurochemicals in our brain that go out of sync, whether that's because of hereditary predisposition, family history of similar issues running in your family, or that plus a combination of stress in life, which is what leads to this imbalance. And we know that there are effective treatments like therapy and medication that help treat these problems, but nevertheless, it becomes a much more bigger deal to accept this and move in that direction. And so, I think often this, analogy of, diabetes and depression, brain and pancreas, chemicals here, chemicals there, going out of sync. And the good news is there is treatment that fixes that. helps people to, kind of move past that stigma that often they have, in terms of at least the first step of acceptance and moving ahead with treatment, to give the treatment the child or the person deserves. But it doesn't end there. There is a lot of concern about how we will share this with our family members, our extended family. How is this going to be reflecting, on my child's academic performance and future career? So we have to do a lot of education around, like, often kids need extra support, academic support, or need accommodations through school because they are not, functioning optimally. Their mind is not in a right mental frame to be, doing well in school. So a lot of my work also involves, writing letters to school and helping them understand this kid is going through this medical condition right now. Please allow them to have a 504 plan and accommodations for some time, so they have a little bit of flexibility in turning in assignments a little bit later, or reduce workload if possible, or get a little extra time on tests and things like that. And often the question that comes up is, will this appear on my child's transcript? And I absolutely have to remind them that it is not. It's never going to show up on your child's transcript. This is a confidential letter that I send to the school, and it's a confidential agreement the school makes with the student and the parents about certain accommodations, and no teacher, no staff or administrative person at school is allowed to divulge this information without your permission. And they are not going to reflect this in your transcripts, because often people worry, oh, how would this impact my child's college applications, for instance, or their future? And so, we are in a different world today, where we have mental health parity law that was passed more than 10 years ago now. So there is a lot more understanding about these conditions, and employers and even schools and whatnot understand that this is a medical condition, and it requires equal help and assistance like any other medical condition. So those are some of my kind of experiences in short about the stigma piece. And nevertheless, that has become a motive for me to start my nonprofit, which is what you briefly heard about, Tarika Foundation, where we do this educational work, and our focus is really to reduce that stigma and normalize these things, because these are treatable and people can bounce back. Now, mental health conditions do stem from a lot of challenges. Youth go through these, very crucial years of development. They are, going through a lot during these age of middle and high school, with puberty changes and, trying to fit in with their peer and finding the right peer group, and feeling they are accepted and well liked. And then with the advent of social media, I think it's become only more challenging for this digital age, generation, I think, because, when I was growing up, I could be seen as this awkward, shy kid who could, wear whatever and walk away, and people would just talk about it for that day, and the next day I could look better and it would be done. But now, we leave digital footprints with every post, with every click, with every picture that goes on. There is, a footprint of that left that keeps people, in people's memories, and there's much more, impact of that, directly and indirectly, in terms of course, self-esteem for the child, but also, there's subtle, bullying or cyberbullying, or some kind of passive aggressive behaviors that can be easily done on the platform of social media. That happens, I hear from my clients. And then, of course, when everybody's posting all these beautiful pictures of looking perfect in perfect brands and in perfect places vacationing. This year has given us a different perspective, obviously, with COVID and pandemic, but I think it is a lot for kids to think about and fit in and feel like, oh, they don't look that good enough, or they don't have that level of luxury or whatnot. So I feel for you guys that this is a whole different world, as much as there are advantages of social media and this whole technology that's making us stay connected during the pandemic. And we certainly have advantages of technology. I'm not bashing social media or technology here, but I think there is a price that we're also paying when it comes to social media and how it should be appropriately used, and how you have to navigate through challenges that come because of that. Because, I just feel like I am, a 40-plus-year-old adult, where I have, my brain is fully developed, my maturity is fully striked, and I have much more perspective taking, and I can let go of things much more easily. I'm not as impulsive as I used to be when I was a teenager. And even with that level of experience and brain development, I get affected by social media when I see people posting beautiful pictures and beautiful dresses and whatnot, and then feeling like, oh my gosh, I look so different, or I look not like them. And so I can only understand how difficult that is for all your developing brains to have that level of maturity and self-control to like not get affected by that. But I did see some positive comments about how you can actually move past that, and focus on yourself and your strengths, and find the right tribe of people for you. And the reality is that everybody has something to offer, and everybody's unique in their own way, and we all have a place for us. And it's hard to understand that or accept that at that age you are in, but it all works out. I was this short, nerdy kid in my middle school who was great at academics, but I didn't have to excel in other 10 different things like you guys have to. And I found my way, and I feel like, of course, I went through my insecurities and whatnot, but we do. And I see all my classmates, and everybody's found their way. So I think it's important to bring that into perspective, that you don't need to totally fit in and feel like you're the perfect peer or perfect friend. It is just a thing that evolves with time, and you will find your strengths and your path, and your own kind of unique self, and that self-compassion towards self, and having confidence in your ability and focusing on your strengths is a way to kind of move past these petty issues related to, I mean, they seem petty now, of course, to me, but they meant a lot more maybe, when I was your age. But looking back, you may find them pretty petty, that, oh my gosh, I would feel insecure about my body in front of this girl or this boy, or I would feel, so intimidated by this person who had, excellent track record in everything, academics and extracurriculars. It really doesn't matter in the long run. And then, in terms of just advice that I would like to give people who are getting caught up in this body image, kind of struggle, which I again understand it's not easy. Nobody falls into that trap by choice, but you kind of slowly get into that trap. But as long as you have that awareness that you can, as long as you can understand that it is okay to feel not perfect and great and good enough all the time. I mean, I wish I was taller than 5'1", but I had to accept that's what it is. And wherever I could, improve, I could get rid of my glasses and wear contacts. That's a change I could make. But I'm still wearing my glasses today. But there are things we can change, things we can't, and we need to find a way to love ourselves and appreciate the parts that we are blessed with. I think that really helps you to move, kind of get I guess, get too pulled or, even sucked into this path of developing an eating disorder and whatnot. So that's my biggest concern. I'm seeing more and more, even during the pandemic, that as we are, all stranded at homes and our activities have been limited, we are all gaining weight. Our socialization has been affected. So that's generating feelings of sadness and isolation, more anxiety about, uncertainty that lies in front of us about what next and how long and our future and whatnot. And I think, it is important to, be aware of those things building and nipping them in the bud. And so talking openly about it, getting mental health professionals help if need be, talking to your family about it, your peers about it, and being really aware of catching this early is a way to prevent this from getting worse. So that would be my advice, that if you are feeling like the body image concerns are continuing to grow and maybe that's impacting your eating patterns, or you're starting to, binge eat and then maybe go and throw up or purge, or, it just is a vicious cycle. It can pretty quickly grow upon you, and you can realize, you don't realize how quickly it takes over. So I would like you to reach out and get help. You can talk to your pediatrician about it, and they can, connect you to a nutritionist and get you talking to a therapist and things like that to really break this cycle, because we do see that, that's starting to become an issue more and more. So, that would be my, I guess, real advice to all of you, to not take these things too easily or take it for granted and let it slide, because there's, a lot of other important things that you have to do. Your college apps are more important, your high school grades are more important, and people just generally push this thing in the back burner. But we know that these things are much harder to get treated for and managed if you sit on it for too long. So just like when we have a fever or a headache, we run and get a medicine or do something about it. It's the same thing. If you notice any thing that's just nagging you emotionally and it's only getting worse, then you need to take a pause and get help and not delay on that. All right, I know I'm not keeping track of time, Rama, so I think I might have spoken for at least 15 minutes. So if this is a good segue, I can stop and we can have some question and answers session going.
Thank you very much, Leena. I'm going to hand it back to Alicia, who's our moderator for today. And thank you very much. That was very useful to hear.
Thank you.
I echo that. Thank you so much, Leena. And what really stood out to me was when you said everyone finds their own path. And I think that's so true. So just, stick with it and get help if you need help, and reach out to others for support. I know all of us are here in Maitri to support you, and things will definitely work out for the better. For now, I hope everyone is learning a lot today. I know I did with these wonderful speeches. So before we move on to the Q&A section, I wanted to take a little time to fill out the survey poll.